Today marks 2 years after Daniel Prude's encounter with Rochester Police. He died a week later, setting off protests and growing calls for police accountability. Prude was experiencing a mental health crisis and suffering from effects of PCP when he was restrained by Rochester Police. He lost consciousness and died a week later. Prude's death sparked calls for change in the responses to mental health-related calls. Local state lawmakers are pushing for passage of Daniel's Law. It would establish regional and state councils for mental health responses.
What we want to make sure we do is that we adhere to the overall objective of this law, and that is to standardize across the state a floor of requirements that would really emphasize the need for treatment and care, and would try to do that in a voluntary approach versus an involuntary approach, and that would have mental health providers be the initial responders to these crises.
And tonight at 7 o'clock, there will be a vigil held at MLK Park in memory of Daniel Prude.
Rochester native will be in the national spotlight. RIT staff member Jared Lyon and two of his friends are competing in a new Fox game show called Domino Master. Photojournalist Will Morgan talked to Lyon about the big debut and his toppling talents.
See something like that? It's not good when you do dominoes. I think it's the creativity of the whole thing. Physics obviously comes into play, especially when you're doing chain reactions where, this has to roll and hit this, and, things don't always roll exactly the same. It's a lot of work for this little, tiny, beautiful thing. It's a very meditative thing, and you're just setting up dominoes, and then it's going to be gone in seconds. When you've got so many dominoes, you just have to play with them every once in a while. Just, a random... People read books, people watch movies. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I just take out some dominoes and play with them.
The Bearded Buddies!
I started building dominoes when I was like 5 years old on the dairy farm that I grew up on. I went to L.A. I'd never been to L.A. before. My friends and I, each team is 3 team members. Every episode, you are given a theme. Our first theme is time travel. We call them accidental topples. Some people call them mistakes, but it's not really a mistake. It's just part of playing with dominoes. And you just regroup and start over again.
It is topple time!
I'm excited. When you're filming, there's 16 hours of setting up dominoes, but then there's interview segments and there's all this other stuff. You never know how it's going to edit together.
Thank you to our photojournalist Will Morgan for putting all of that together for us tonight. You can watch Jared Lyon and his bearded buddies, teammates, compete for a $100,000 grand prize. That's tonight at 9 o'clock right here on Fox Rochester.
COVID cases are down significantly. Fewer people are being treated in local hospitals, but a major challenge remains.
We're still sending people to Syracuse and Buffalo. And it's just because there's no beds available in this area.
A shortage of nursing home beds means you could face a delay seeking emergency care in a hospital, even without a COVID surge. The healthcare system is still backlogged. It's a problem that begins in nursing homes and could get even worse soon. Inside the emergency department at Thompson Hospital, 12 people, acutely ill, wait to be admitted.
Every single one of our med-surg beds is full. Every one of our observation beds are full. Why? Because we can't get the nursing home patients out of the hospital. And that's a huge challenge.
There are 19 patients inside Thompson who need a nursing home bed, but there are none. And so they wait and wait. Nursing home beds are scarce. The area has lost 1,600 beds since the start of COVID. Facilities have been forced to cut beds because they lack staffing.
The biggest challenge we have right now continues to be our staffing. I talked in previous interviews, pre-COVID, we only had about 90 openings. Now we're at 265.
that staffing crunch could get even worse. At the end of the month, a new state law mandating staffing levels is expected to go into effect. Advocates for seniors say it will ensure better care. But it's left some administrators like Mike Stapleton frustrated.
I don't need anybody to tell me how to staff my hospital or my nursing home. We know how to do that. Not everybody's bad. There's a couple bad seeds. There's a couple nursing homes who've been all over our press for years. They're still open. Pay attention to those nursing homes.
That mandated staffing law was set to take effect at the beginning of the year, but was delayed due to the ongoing COVID surge. With that over, the law is slated to go into effect at the end of March. It's feared that could lead to the closing of even more nursing home beds due to the new standard of care and an already depleted hiring pool.